Happy Monday, and thank you very much for joining us on this Monday edition of Africa Good Morning. We are broadcasting the news making headlines across Africa. My name is Aina Raizakoya and this is Diana Master.
A very good morning to you, Africa, and a very good morning to you, Aina. So today is Water a Flower Day. Do you have any flowers, Aina?
I am the flower.
Yes, of course. So who's going to be watering your bank account this morning?
Somebody needs to water it.
National Water a Flower Day is a day that recognizes the importance of caring for our garden plants. Just think about how dull the world would be if we did not have beautiful flowers everywhere. I mean, most people would agree that we tend to take flowers for granted. This is because we see them whenever we look out. So to us, they're just, something that's naturally supposed to be there. However, our walks would not be anywhere near beautiful or peaceful without nature. Let's take a look at this video on Water a Flower Day.
Thank you very much for joining us. Let's get into the news-making headlines. More than 30 die in stampede at Nigeria church event. More than 30 people were killed on Saturday in a stampede in southern Nigeria during an overcrowded church charity event where food was being distributed. Shoes and slippers lay scattered on the ground after a disaster in Port Harcourt City in southern Rivers State when people tried to force their way into the event. Police and witnesses. The local church organization was offering food and gifts for the poor at the local Port Harcourt Polo Club when a mammoth crowd got out of control, River State Police said. Unfortunately, the crowd became very dangerous and uncontrollable, and all efforts made by the organizers to bring sanity proved abortive, hence the stampede, the police said in a statement.
Now moving over to DRC, 17 headless bodies discovered in East DR Congo. Soldiers patrolling Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo discovered 17 decapitated bodies believed to be victims of a notorious rebel group, local sources said on Friday. The troops came across the corpses on Thursday by the Ituri River, according to Red Cross representative David Beza. A Red Cross team later visited the area with soldiers and found the bodies. It is suspected that rebels from the Allied Democratic Forces were responsible for the beheadings. AFP was also unable to independently verify the information. Diodon Malangai, a resident of the area where the bodies were discovered, also said there were 17 headless corpses. It is difficult to identify the victims because the bodies are decomposing, he said, adding that they were likely killed by the ADF. Described by the so-called Islamic State as its local affiliate, the ADF has been accused of killing thousands of civilians in DRC's troubled east. More than 120 armed groups roam eastern DRC, and civilian massacres are common. In addition, several civilians have been killed by rebel fighters in eastern DRC, according to the country's army and civil society groups.
2 more miners found dead in a flooded Burkina Faso mine. The dead bodies of 2 more missing miners have been found at a zinc mine owned by Trevally Mining Corp in Burkina Faso that flooded last month when the government said on Saturday. The bodies of 4 of 8 missing miners were found earlier this week. Hopes of finding survivors vanished last week when rescue workers found the miners' rescue chamber empty. The government said in a statement that search operations were continuing for the remaining 2 missing miners. The Pekoa mine abruptly submerged on the 16th of April after torrential rain fell unexpectedly during Burkina Faso's dry season.
Now, Senegalese president orders audit after hospital fire kills 11 newborns. President Macky Sall on Friday ordered an audit of Senegal's neonatal services after the death of 11 newborns in a hospital fire sparked fresh grief and indignation over the country's health system. The blaze in a neonatal ward in the western city of Tivaouane, weeks after the tragic death of a mother-to-be, has turned a spotlight on flaws and funding problems and triggered calls for senior-level sanctions. Sall on Thursday fired his health minister Abdoulaye Diouf Sarr, replacing him with former Director General of the Public Health Authority Marie-Khemesse Ngom Diaye. But for many Senegalese, that is not enough. They have demanded more action, fearing Wednesday's fire will not be the last. After cutting short a trip abroad and visiting the Tivaouane hospital room where the babies died, a visibly emotional Sall said the health system was obsolete and ordered a nationwide audit of neonatal services. A modernization effort would look at what was not working so that hospitals would no longer be a space of despair or tragedy, he added, vowing never again.
Guns are now the leading cause of death for American children. Firearms deaths have surpassed motor vehicles crashes as the leading cause of death among American youngsters, with official data showing a strong rise in gun-related homicides, such as the killing of 19 children in a Texas school rampage. Over 4,368 children and adolescents up to the age of 19 died from firearm-caused injuries in 2020, a rate of 5.4% per 100,000. A dashboard by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention showed homicides made up nearly two-thirds of the gun deaths. By comparison, there were 4,036 deaths linked to motor vehicles, the previous leading cause of death among this age group. The gap has been narrowing as road safety measures have improved over the decades, while gun-related deaths have risen. After the break, we return with more news. Stay with us.
You're watching Africa Good Morning. Getting into the second half of our top stories, DRC citizens in Goma welcome government sanctions against Rwanda. The decision by the Congo to cut ties with Rwanda has elicited mixed reactions. Kinshasa on Friday halted all Rwanda air flights from the country, alleging Kigali's involvement in supporting the M23 rebel group in the eastern parts of the vast nation. Rwanda Defense Force later said 2 soldiers had been kidnapped on patrol and were being held by the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, another rebel group active in eastern DRC. As our country has taken the decision to suspend Rwanda air flights, I think if other countries would take the same measures, Rwanda will understand that its game is known by all states and that it is now time for it to stop and for us to give peace a chance, said Josu Kabanza, a resident of Goma. Kinshasa has regularly accused Rwanda of carrying out incursions into its territory and of backing armed groups there. More than 120 armed groups roam volatile eastern DRC, many of which are a legacy of regional wars more than 2 decades ago. It is unacceptable that the Congolese continue to suffer this tragedy simply because they decided to extend hospitality to a neighboring country, to brothers and sisters of a neighboring country who were in danger, said Omari Grace, a resident of Goma.
Ethiopian rights bodies seek release of 16 detained journalists. Ethiopia's state-appointed human rights body has called for the release of 16 journalists and media personnel after new arrests in recent days in the capital Addis Ababa and the restive region of Amhara. Press watchdogs and rights groups have said Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government is increasingly intimidating the media and harassing opponents as it seeks to quell unrest in regions. Ethiopian authorities have been particularly cracking down in Amhara and Oromia region recently, despite announcing a ceasefire to a 16-month civil war in March. The authorities have justified arrests of media personnel by accusing them of siding with rebels. Rights Commission head Daniel Bekele said the total number of detained journalists was now 16 and urged their immediate release. No claim about the alleged offense committed through media justifies violation of the newly adopted media law, which clearly prohibits pre-trial detention of persons charged with committing an offense through the media, he said in a statement.
Nigeria's opposition party names Atiku Abubakar as its flag bearer. Nigeria's main opposition party on Saturday named former Vice President Atiku Abubakar as its candidate for the 2023 election to replace President Muhammadu Buhari. Abubakar, who is 75, a northern Muslim and stalwart of the People's Democratic Party, or PDP, has made numerous bids to capture the presidency of Africa's most populous country. He won most ballots from PDP party delegates who voted in a primary election in Abuja on Saturday, beating a challenge from Rivers State Governor Ezenwo Nyesom Wike. The PDP and Buhari's ruling All Progressives Congress Party were both scheduled this weekend to select candidates for the presidential race in February. But a day before its primaries were to start, the APC announced that it had pushed its party convention back a week to June 6 through June 8. Earlier on Saturday, PDP delegates and political leaders packed out on Abuja National Arena, decked out in the opposition's party's red, white and green colors. Buhari, 79, leaves office with Nigeria still struggling to end a more than decade-long jihadist conflict in its northeast and a wave of violent banditry and mass kidnappings in its northwest. Africa's largest economy is also still recovering from the impact of the coronavirus pandemic and fallout from the Ukraine war that has pushed up fuel and food prices across the continent.
Refugees in Kenya's Kakuma and Dadaab camps are still in limbo. In March 2021, Kenya ordered the swift closure of Kakuma and Dadaab, two sprawling refugee camps that host more than 400,000 people, mostly from neighboring Somalia, South Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and gave the United Nations Refugee Agency just 2 weeks to come up with a plan to do so. In response, UNHCR presented Kenya with what it said were sustainable rights-based measures for finding solutions for the refugees' long-standing displacement solutions that include voluntary repatriations, departure to third countries under various arrangements, and alternative stay options in Kenya. In the end, the Refugee Agency and the Kenyan Authority agreed on a roadmap that would result in both camps being closed by the 30th of June 2022. The announcement of an official closure date sent shockwaves down the spines of many of the camp's residents.
Now, in our international story, Italy's Catholic Church orders child sex abuse study. Italy's Catholic Church announced Friday a study into 20 years of internal records on clerical child sex abuse, a step survivors say falls short of their demands for an independent inquiry. In a statement, the Bishops' Conference said there would be an analysis conducted in collaboration with unnamed independent research institutions on alleged or confirmed crimes by clerics in Italy from 2000 to 2021. It will use data kept by the Vatican Department that deals with the issues of abuse, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, to establish a deeper and more objective knowledge of the phenomenon. The study will allow an improvement in preventative measures and allow victims and survivors to be treated with more awareness, it added. But clerical abuse survivor groups have demanded Italy follow other countries in following a full and independent probe. Francesco Bosco Zanardi, who was abused by a priest when he was a teenager, said it was discriminatory to study cases from 2000 onwards, with many cases like his being excluded. Inquiries across the United States, Europe, and Australia have exposed widespread abuse of children in a decade-long cover-up, and many groups say Italy can no longer avoid scrutiny.
Well, those have been our stories. After the break, we talk about a memorandum of understanding signed by the WHO and the Commonwealth Secretariat after the break.
My.NA Property Show provides viewers with the best in-class content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest property-related products and services. If you would like to feature your brand or your campaign on this platform, contact My.NA at synergy.com.na. My.NA Properties, more than just a roof over your head.
Happy Monday. Now, the World Health Organization and the Commonwealth Secretariat signed a memorandum of understanding on the 7th of February this year that expands their collaboration in 7 priority areas, including the achievement of universal health coverage, strengthening global health security, and building a data partnership week. Let's have a look at this insert.
The world faces unique health challenges as COVID-19 still poses unprecedented threats to health systems, economics, and societies worldwide. There is no better time than now to come together in global solidarity. The Commonwealth brings together 54 countries and is home to more than 2.5 billion people. No matter their size, income level, or location, all Commonwealth countries have suffered from the impact of the pandemic. The World Health Organization and the Commonwealth Secretariat are joining forces to leverage their unique strengths and expand their collaboration in 7 priority areas, including the achievement of universal health coverage, strengthening global health security, and building a data partnership. We will work together to improve health outcomes across the entire Commonwealth and scale up support to small states that are particularly vulnerable to the health and environmental impacts of climate change. Our shared objective is to place equity at the heart of all global health efforts, end the COVID-19 pandemic, and help the world get the 2030 agenda back on track. Now is the time. Let us come together to address the greatest global health challenges of the 21st century and emerge stronger with robust health systems and more resilient societies worldwide.
Now, a new documentary film in the series The Forests of a Desert Land will make its international premiere on the 18th of June in Los Angeles at the Dances with Films Festival. The documentary film, directed by award-winning Tim Hebschel, zooms in on the protection of forests and aims to create awareness of the need to protect these sensitive ecological environments. Namibia has since 1990 lost vast tracts of its forests, especially in the northeast of the country, due to harvesting of wood. Hebschel's stories features a girl collecting firewood, an athlete telling about the impact on his training, and a farmer who, in a very personal way, describes the real impact of climate change. The documentaries will be available on YouTube in October. Let's take a look.
Mona omiti di hapu mo Namibia. Ondahala ngeno muhadi omiti inadike wapo.
Ora kare na mungaure na hakire de kumena itondo no ipumbu no iputa. Ese ngumana momumvure uthina kuitondo huwa wapo na moni nepa wantu.
Sena swale monike na akara ngwe ndimo wizangos na ndimo ihwa rutu ntani na ple ruheso kuhesera peke wene ambara kuhesera wawa tani watu tukuzua we nasi eroroko.
They say that knowledge is power and to give information is freedom. It's always good to know something about everything. Master Sichula is here with the news from Zambia. Good morning, Master Sichula. How are you?
Good morning, and Africa. Good morning. How are you doing?
We are fantastic. Please tell us about a memorandum of understanding between Zambia and Zimbabwe.
Wow, this has been done through the Pan-African Minerals Development Company, which is a company registered in South Africa to hold and exploit mineral rights owned by Zambia Railways as well as National Railways of Zimbabwe. The MAU was signed in Victoria Falls town, where Zambia was represented by Transport Minister Mr. Frank Tayali, and also Zimbabwe was represented by the Minister of Transport and Infrastructure, Felix Muhoni, and the South African Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Sam Matesha. So this MAU is aimed at boosting cooperation in mining between the among the three countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. So it is expected that after this signing of the memorandum of understanding, the three countries are going to share information with regards to mining and also how they can help develop minerals in the three countries. So this is something that is also coming handy in terms of the new administration to improve on its intra-regional cooperation with its neighboring countries before going to countries away from within their circle of cooperation.
Indeed. Now moving on, a civic leader is proposing for a ban on gambling machines, popularly known as bonanzas in townships, arguing that the machines are keeping young people from school. May you please go further into this?
Yes, the civic leader in Lusaka submitted a motion to the Lusaka City Council for councillors to ban slot machines, popularly known as bonanzas, used for gaming in townships. According to Mr. Mukubesa Nyoni, he says children between 5 and 15 are now getting addicted to bonanzas because of lack of effective regulations by operators. He says with the upcoming of the free provision of free education, the number of children, instead of going to school, are diverting to spend their monies that are given for upkeep at school to play these bonanzas in these communities. That has been dotted across most densely populated parts of Zambia. However, the chairperson for the Zambia Gaming Association says banning the bonanzas will support unemployment and poverty in townships. According to him, he says the bonanzas have created about 15,000 jobs for young people across the country, where operators contribute to the national envelope through tax and revenue collection by the Zambia Revenue Authority. So it is something that is likely not to succeed because of what has been put up in place. And also the Gaming Association of Zambia is urging its members to ensure that children underage do not patronize these facilities. It is expected that maybe this something will come up, but in terms of banning this bonanzas, it's something that may not likely happen due to other corresponding regulations that are in place.
All right, Master Sichula, let's talk about the possibility of the building of 1.5 billion gas pipeline.
Okay, Zambia and Tanzania are discussing the possibility of building a $1.5 billion gas pipeline. The pipeline will be used by Zambia to import gas from Tanzania. The Minister of Energy, Mr. Peter Kapala, says the two countries have reached prepared ground for a memorandum of understanding on building the gas pipeline, which will be 1,000 kilometers long. Mr. Kapala, who was recently to Tanzania to discuss the pipeline with his counterparts, January Mukaba, said this pipeline is good for Zambia, which is trying to move away from electricity that is dependent on hydro. So they want to have a lot of options in terms of provision of the energy. Tanzania hosts about 50 trillion cubic feet of gas. So Zambia wants to take advantage of that to ensure that they build this pipeline. So those talks are in the initial stages, but the amount of money is that much, 1.5 billion United States dollar for this pipeline. And you also have to remember that Zambia has signed a memorandum of understanding with Namibia to build another pipeline from Gotv to Lusaka and carry about 350 million cubic feet per day of feedstock for power plants. So these are options that the government of Zambia under President Hakainde Hichilema are exploring to see which one is going to work better for the two countries.
Of course, we'll be waiting for an update. Now, the Africa Cup of Nations is, of course, all African soccer fans are talking about. And President Hakainde Hichilema has challenged the Chipolopolo boys in camp to qualify for the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. Please expand on this.
Yes, this is something that a number of soccer fans are expecting the Football Association of Zambia to ensure that the Chipolopolo squad that won the Africa Cup of Nations in 2012 qualify to the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations to be hosted by Ivory Coast. So as we speak now, the Zambia national team has traveled to Ghana to set camp there in Ghana because the Chipolopolo squad will be facing Ivory Coast on 3rd June in Ivory Coast. So the team has traveled there to ensure that they acclimatize with the environment of the West African country. So after the 3rd June match, Zambia will also again host Comoros 4 days later at Lusaka Heroes International Stadium. So this is a call that President Hakainde Hichilema has made to the team to say the Zambia national team has not qualified to the last 3 Africa Cup of Nations consecutive. And this has made a lot of soccer fans have mixed feelings about the new coach, even the Football Association of Zambia. But the president is urging soccer fans to challenge, to support the team, even as he also wants the team to qualify to the Continental Soccer Showpiece in Ivory Coast. So this is the challenge that the Chipolopolo team has to take, because anything less than that will certainly not be good for the team in terms of getting support from soccer fans who are eager for the team to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations to be hosted by Ivory Coast next year.
All right, Master Sichula, thank you very much for bringing us these news stories from Zambia. Stay in the light.
Thank you very much, Diana, and Aina. Have a blessed week. Thank you. Africa, good morning.
A blessed day we will have indeed. Now let's have a look at the weather.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. And now we cross on over to Zimbabwe, where we speak to Talent Gore, our correspondent, to give us all the latest stories on the ground. Good morning, Talent.
Good morning, Diana. Good morning, Aina. How are you doing this morning?
We are great, a little cold, but good. Starting off, the Zimbabwe Gender Commission has expressed concern over rising cases of child rape, with close relatives mainly being the perpetrators. Please tell us about this.
So on Thursday, the commission held a an awareness campaign in Epworth, whereby they were condemning sexual abuse of minors. And it also said that it has been observed that rape, abuse of underage girls, and the marriage of young women has intensified, and this problem is spreading across the country. Apparently, the commission was also saying that mostly these rape and the sexual abuse of minors were perpetrated by their relatives, be it their fathers or their uncles. They are the ones who are actually abusing these young children. So the Zimbabwe Gender Commission commissioner said that the vice was an affront on the rights of the girl child, as it is our collective responsibility to ensure that children have access to their basic human rights, security and dignity, and the opportunity to go to schools and do activities that uplift the country. So for a while now, there are no statistics on the number of cases of sexual abuses or rape cases that have been recorded since January. But apparently there are no statistics that shows the number of cases. But apparently each and every week or a day, the police records rape cases of minors, and they record rape cases they report rape cases being done to minors by their relatives, be it their uncles, be it their others, be it their brothers. So the Gender Commission has said that they're going to be working with the police to make sure that they arrest, they bring to law everyone who is perpetrating rape to minors and children in the country.
All right, now Zimbabwe remains food insecure. Then this is according to the government. Tell us about it.
So last week, the government announced that they're going to be importing 400,000 tons of maize from Malawi and Zambia. So this brought up an outrage on social media, who are saying that we are importing maize when the government is saying that we are not going to be food insecure this year. So the government then said that Zimbabwe, which already has 500 tons of grain reserves, is food secure, as it expects farmers to deliver 1.8 million tons during the current marketing season. The government also said that they are going to be importing an additional 400,000 tons of maize from Zambia and Malawi. The reason why they're importing is not that because we are food insecure, but then they just want to add to the already reserves that are there in the country. So the government also said that the mid-season experiences in January this year affected harvests. So they say that maize importation had also been open to private players. The government is not importing any maize. We are amassing enough for our strategic grain reserve from the current harvest, plus carryover of 500 tons from last season. So they're saying that they're just adding to the already food reserve. We are not food insecure, but rather we are food insecure. We are just adding to the current reserves that we have. So importing maize from Malawi, from Zambia, it doesn't mean that we are food insecure.
All right, now finally, you have been giving us an update on the strikes in Zimbabwe that the teachers want to take. And now we have it that the government has been given a 1-week ultimatum to address the teachers' salary grievances or face a crippling strike action beginning on the 1st of June. Please tell us more on this.
So the educators, particularly the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, they've said that they were tired of unfulfilled promises by the government. So they said the government's failure to comply with their demand for United States dollar salaries and improved working conditions would force them to embark on a collective job action as provided for under Section 65 of the Zimbabwean Constitution. So in an interview, the amalgamated president Obed Msarure said that they were determined for an industrial action unless their grievances are addressed, and they officially handed a letter to the government to tell them that if they do not address their grievances by June 1, they were going to embark on an industrial action. So this is not the first time that the teachers are striking over salaries. This goes on and on and on in Zimbabwe. So the teachers are demanding for salaries in United States dollars, but the government is saying that we can't afford to pay all the civil servants or the teachers in US dollars. So there are a number of promises that the government has made to the teachers, and also there are a number of increments and a number of strategies that the government has actually implemented to make sure that the teachers are well taken care of. But the teachers are saying that no, we don't want all that. All we want our United States dollar salaries, because as it stands, the Zimbabwean dollar is being inflected. There is inflation, high inflation in Zimbabwe. So they're saying that we can't afford to be receiving our salaries in Zimbabwean dollars because it does not buy anything. Apparently, as it stands, teachers, they get paid 100 United States dollars, 150 200 United States dollars in Zimbabwean dollar. So they're saying that we want our salaries in United States dollars. We want 540 United States dollars, the amounts that we're getting in 2017. So the government is saying we can't do that. So the teachers have actually handed in a letter to tell the government that we're going to strike if you do not meet our demands by June 1.
Of course, we'll be waiting for an update on this. That was Talent Gore giving us all the pertinent stories on the ground in Zimbabwe. Thank you, Talent.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
It's always a pleasure. So now we're going to take a quick ad break, and when we come back, we bring you our economic news. Stay tuned.
Careers Bistro focuses on the movers and shakers in the corporate world. It takes the content of the Careers Hub that is inserted every Friday in 3 NMH dailies, Republican, Namibian Sun, and Algemeine Zeitung, to viewers on social media. This show is broadcasted on NTV, oneup2.com, and cross-shared on the following Facebook platforms: Careers Hub, The Republican, Algemeine Zeitung, Namibian Sun, and Namibia Media Holdings. Careers Bistro focuses on car interviews, career motivational videos, the ups and downs of different careers, keeping in touch with business, and more. For career-related content or advertising queries, please contact zone@synergy.com.na.
This is Africa Good Morning right here on NTV, and we are bringing you economic news. Twitter fined $150 million in US for selling users' data. Twitter in the US must pay a $150 fine after law enforcement officials accused it of illegally using users' data to help sell targeted ads. The Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice says that Twitter violated an agreement it had with the regulators. Court documents showed Twitter had vowed to not give personal information like phone numbers and email addresses to advertisers. Federal Investors says the social media company broke those rules. Twitter was fined $400,000 in December 2020 for breaking Europe's GDPR data privacy rules. The FTC is an independent agency of the US government whose mission is the enforcement of antitrust law and the promotion of consumer protection. It accuses Twitter of breaching a 2011 FTC order that explicitly prohibited the company from misinterpreting its privacy and security practices.
Now, Putin ready to help avert food crisis if West lifts sanctions. Moscow is ready to make a significant contribution to averting a looming food crisis if the West lifts sanctions over Ukraine, President Vladimir Putin told Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi on Thursday. Russia was slapped with unprecedented sanctions after Putin ordered troops into neighboring Ukraine on February 24th. The sanctions and military action have disrupted supplies of fertilizer, wheat, and other commodities from both Russia and Ukraine. The two countries produce 30% of the global wheat supply. Putin emphasizes that the Russian Federation is ready to make a significant contribution to overcoming the food crisis through the export of grain and fertilizer, subject to the lifting of politically motivated restrictions by the West, the Kremlin said in a statement following the call. Putin also described as unfounded accusations that Russia was to blame for the problems with food supplies on the global market.
Southern African countries agreed to push for a lift on international ivory trade. Zimbabwe, Botswana, Zambia, Tanzania, and Namibia are teaming up to legalize the international trade in ivory, which has been banned for decades. The Southern African countries on Thursday signed the Hagwe Declaration, a treaty pushing for the opening of ivory sales, and was set to push for the adoption of the treaty at the 19th Conference of the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species to be held in Panama in November. The countries all attended the African Elephant Conference in Hwangwe National Park, where the agreement was reached. Hwangwe National Park is also part of the Okavango-Zambezi Trans-Frontier Conservation Area, which brings together the wildlife population of Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. It's estimated that there are 300,000 elephants in the Kaza area, and the member states as such want their voice to be heard.
Now, moving over, Victoria's Secret pays 996 million shillings settlement to sacked Thai workers. More than 1,000 sacked Thai garment workers who made bras at a factory supplying lingerie giant Victoria's Secret have received a landmark $8.3 million settlement, labor rights activists said on Saturday. Brilliant Alliance Thai closed down its Samut Prakan factory in March 2021 after going bankrupt, but the 1,250 laid off workers, many of whom had worked at the factory for over a decade, did not receive severance payouts mandated under Thai law. The factory also produced underwear for plus-size American brands Lane Bryant and Torrid, owned by Sycamore Partners, but only Victoria's Secret contributed to the settlement via a loan arrangement with the factory's owners. Victoria's Secret confirmed in a statement that an agreement had been reached but did not mention the amount involved. Former worker Jitnawachari Panad had clocked up to 25 years at the factory and said more than 2/3 of the sacked workers were women aged 45 or older. If we hadn't fought for fair compensation, we wouldn't have received anything, Jitnawachari, who is also president of the Triumph International Workers Union of Thailand, told AFP. For the past year, sacked workers and Thai union representatives have protested outside Government House in Bangkok, calling for their pay. Confederation of Industrial Labour of Thailand President Prasit Prasopsuk said some protesting workers had been charged with criminal offences, including violating public gatherings rules during the pandemic.
All right, up next we have economic indicators. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. Ari Khoukhad is here to tell us what is happening in the world of sports. Ari, please tell us about soccer.
Yes, very good morning. It's always on a Monday. Some are very happy, some are very sad. And it's happiness in Spain. It is the UEFA Champions League final played in Paris. The winners, Real Madrid. They won for the 14th. That's a record 14th time. That's twice as many as any other club. So they beat Liverpool in the final. That's the winning team. They beat Liverpool in the 10th final by only 1-0. But 1 goal is more than enough for them to win, and a great achievement. Liverpool also having a great season, had a great season. Only their 4th defeat in 63 games across all competitions in 2021-2022. But congratulations, Real Madrid Championship or the UEFA Champions League winners.
Good news to them indeed. Now moving on to Formula One racing. It was the Monaco Grand Prix. Please tell us what went down.
Yes, very historic. There's lots of rain that came down. That was just before the start, and it delayed the start by half an hour. Didn't happen too many times before. Tough to race there. You don't get past anybody, so it had to be strategy and in the pits that they beat. That's what happened. Red Bull was better in the pits. They beat Ferrari. That is Charles Leclerc. He started on pole, but finished 4th. Not a good pit strategy for him in the end. It was Sergio Perez, Red Bull, that won. Carlos Sainz of Ferrari 2nd, Max Verstappen 3rd in his Red Bull, and then Charles Leclerc 4th. It was Lewis Hamilton again battled in his Mercedes. He was down in 8th position. But eventful, there was accidents as well. Eventful Monaco Grand Prix winner Sergio Perez of Red Bull.
All right, now in rugby, it was the World 7 Series in London and the European Rugby Championship final between, please tell us about this.
Yes, the Sevens, it's the second last series. It is London. It was a London edition of the World Series. And it was the Pittsburgh there in action in a very unique jersey, but they came in 5th. Unfortunately, didn't go through in the semi-finals. They achieved the 5th position. The winner was Australia that beat New Zealand in the final. And that was a great win for them. That is La Rochelle, and La Rochelle was the winner of the European Championship, the Heineken European Championship Cup, the first win ever in this prestigious European Championship. They beat the very strong side of Leinster in the final. That game was played in Marseille in France, and they beat them by 24 points to 21. And in the Sevens final, it was New Zealand or Australia that won by 19 points to 14 against New Zealand.
Okay, and now moving over to cricket. It was the final of the Indian Premier League. What happened at the Indian Premier League?
It's very competitive, very tough, but I think the team that was consistently the #1 team, deserved winner, that is Gujarat Titans that won the final. Their first season, it's a new team. Their first time they've played, they got a good team together, and they beat the Rajasthan Royals in the final by 7 wickets. The Royals got 130 for 9, and then it was the Gujarat Titans 133 for 3. One South African played in that winning team, that is David Miller. He scored 32 unbeaten runs, so a great win for the Gujarat Titans winning the IPL 2022.
All right, and lastly, let's talk about golf.
Yes, tournaments played in Europe and in America. Firstly, that is Joost Luiten. He played in his own country in the Dutch Open. He didn't win in the end. He was leading after the first round. The winner there, Victor Perez of France, he won in a playoff against Ryan Fox of New Zealand. And then on the other side of the Atlantic, it was the Charles Schwab Challenge. It was Sam Burns that beat Scotty Scheffler, the world #1, also in the playoff, to win the Charles Schwab Challenge and to win $1.5 million US. So a good prize for him, good winnings for him winning the Charles Schwab Challenge. So that's the golfing news across the globe.
All right, thank you so much, Ari, for giving us all the latest news in sport.
Great pleasure, and a brilliant week for everybody. Goodbye.
As always, we end the show with our highlights from today's broadcast. But first, a quick ad break.
Africa Good Morning is a current affairs program that brings you the latest from Southern Africa and beyond. News, economics, sport, weather, interviews, and so much more. For any advertising or news-related queries, contact agm@synergy.com.na. Africa Good Morning, bringing Africa to you.
As they say, all good things must come to an end. But before we sign off, let's take a look at the highlights from today's broadcast. 17 headless bodies discovered in East DR Congo. 2 more miners found dead in flooded Burkina Faso mine. Senegalese president orders audit after hospital fire kills 11 newborns. Guns are now the leading cause of death for American children. Twitter fined $150 million in US for selling users' data.
And those have been our stories. Thank you very much for joining Africa Good Morning this Monday. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can post them on our Facebook and Twitter pages. That is at Africa Good Morning. We also have a website. It's called One Up To. Please visit us for more content that you love to see. Africa Good Morning screens on DSTV channel 285, as well as Gotv channel 94. There you can find all our shows. There is NMH at 1. There is AGM, Sports Rep, everything that you love to see actually. Now, with that being said, it's all our love, all our light.